Hello and welcome to episode 236 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Yes, this is a little bit different of a voice that you are hearing this evening. This is Brian Weigel, your host here. This is the B-list host, but also A-list host. So welcome again to episode 236, and we're excited to be here with you. Of course, I'm joined by a great crew. My main man with me on the B-list, Clay Winstead. How you doing, buddy?
the long lost Weigel. I'm doing great. Happy to be back on the show. It's been a couple lovely months of FCC lack of FCC in my life, and now I'm got the battery recharged, ready for the new year, ready for a new season. So happy to be here.
Awesome, and we got our man from Louisville, Paul Bavranchik. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. If Clay's the B list, that means I'm the C list, right? No, I'm excited to be here. I just had Cheesecake Factory cheesecake, so I'm geared up and ready to go.
Cheesecake Factory, if you want to sponsor us, please, by all means.
Awesome. Well, we're here, and some people call me the evil twin or Stevie Sunshine. I don't know what they call you, Brad, but welcome to the show.
Hey, man, how's it going? Thank you for that fine compliment.
Fine compliment. Oh, shoot. Well, guys, we had, let's say, a lot to talk about this week. We definitely had some an MLS draft, I guess you could say. We had a lot of rumors out there that people were going about, and let's kind of dive down into this real quick, I guess you could say. So we had our MLS draft this past Thursday with the second overall pick. FC Cincinnati selected Calvin Harris out of Wake Forest. And, Clay, what was your original thoughts on drafting Calvin?
Well, Mike LaHood talked about him like he was the next man crush Monday. So it's really hard for me to not get excited about a kid like that. Clearly, Nijkamp, Birding, et al. Decided goal scoring was the place to go early in the draft. And everyone who I read from Top Drawer Soccer to Extra Time, everyone said he's the best goal scorer in the draft. He's from Wake Forest. He is pretty athletic. He could definitely muscle up a bit, but he's still 20. He is an international, so that gives me some mixed feelings. But the kid moved to New Zealand when he was 14 years old to go into an academy, lived on his own, worked hard to be a pro. He's finally here. I have to admire something like that. It takes a lot. He's sure to mature. He's probably ready to hit the ground running and contribute right away. So that's pretty exciting. Like I said, the international spot is still gives me a couple questions, but I'm excited to see what he can do.
Sure. Now, Brad, we drafted Calvin, and there was some discussion, I guess you could say, with the first pick overall in the draft, Austin SC, the expansion club owned by the Snake, Anthony Precourt. They drafted Daniel Pereira of Virginia Tech over what everybody thought the consensus first pick was going to be in Philip Mayaka. Were you surprised FC Cincinnati went and grabbed Harris, or did you want him to go grab Mayaka?
That's a great question. I was listening to a lot of the pre-draft podcasts and articles, and people were kind of like, you know what? No matter what happens with that first pick, they still kind of thought FC Cincinnati was going to either take Calvin Harris or Bartlow, because FC Cincinnati already has their 6-8 of the future. I mean, you think about it, FC Cincinnati has Frankie Amaya, and they've got Kamahela Makocho. I mean, those guys I think you can pretty much pen in the midfield over the next 2 or 3 seasons. At least that's the expectation. So putting a guy like Pereira or Philip Mayaka in there would kind of be a question mark, even though I would say their floor is much higher than, say, Calvin Harris. With Calvin Harris, kind of a position of need for FC Cincinnati, because we still don't know what that wing situation looks like. Is Kubo really a true winger in a Jaap Stam system? Is Barrial, he's still young. He's unproven. I think you get Calvin Harris, who's got the highest upside. And you know what? He reminds me a lot of Jack Harrison from NYCFC several years ago, where he did well for them. He tore it up, and then you know what? He got a big move back over to England. Calvin Harris, like I said, he's an English player, so he might be more attractive to some of those clubs. So I do like the pick. I might have gone Bartlow personally because I think it gives the club some flexibility. But you know what? For a team that really is lacking top end talent, I think Calvin Harris gives you the best chance of getting that.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see what he's going to bring to this club. And of course, CS Tiers, if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about Calvin from Calvin, he will be our special guest on next week's show. So we're going to have him Monday. Very excited to see, hear from the guy, speak direct to you guys. So if you have any questions for Calvin, please hit us up at feedback@cincinnati-soccertalk.com or DM us on Twitter, Facebook. Love to hear from you guys and questions you'd like to hear. Hopefully the next man, myth, the legend for FC Cincinnati. We're great with Demon Deacons, Wake Forest Demon Deacons. We have a bunch of those guys there, Lahoud and Corbin Bone and Sean Coley. So hopefully he can fill those boots for those guys. So Paul, you have any thoughts on Calvin before we head to your scout?
Yeah, I mean, I think Calvin was the correct pick in a team that lacked goal scoring, especially when you already have the midfield, or at least what you think the midfield is settled. You go out and you get goal scoring. So I think FC Cincinnati totally did the right thing there. And even though they might have had what was considered, or a lot of people considered to be the best prospects still available, they already kind of, I think, had their minds made up. And rather than change course with something that they weren't sure of, they just were like, okay, we know what we're getting. We're going to stick with this.
I love this question that we'll say next week from Mike Lahoud. Are you taking number 13? We got to see there, right? All right.
He got the dreads as well. I mean, it's a perfect kind of situation. Well, he did. I think he has a haircut now, but the resemblance is uncanny.
Well, we're excited to see what he can do and put a ball in the back of the net. Of course, we'll see what happens, and if this has any repercussions with having Franco on the roster. So I'm excited to see what that's going to bring over the next month, as we're about a month away from preseason camp. All right, Paul, we're going back to you with our second pick in the MLS Super Draft. We had Evian Flanagan, a left back from South Florida. Tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, so Evian Flanagan, I think, was a really interesting pick for FC Cincinnati. It definitely fits the profile type player that I think they would be looking for in this position. Someone that started out with DC United in their youth academy, started as a midfielder, transitioned to a defender, and then actually came back to be a midfielder for the University of South Florida. And for someone that has good offensive awareness, good instincts, but also can play that defensive role a little bit, is something that's really interesting that you could potentially put on the wing. He also had 7 assists during his last year of play. And that's another area that FC Cincinnati struggled in mightily, is also getting opportunities to score. So someone that can create those chances or get the offense rolling a little bit is definitely something that I feel would be a good pick, especially in the late 20s of the MLS Super Draft.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I 100% agree with you about that profile, and I'm glad you brought that up because you have Ronald Matarrita, who's an all-out attacking left back, and he's going to be gone a lot. Now, do we know that Avian's going to be the penciled in second stringer, or will we move Zico or Said Abdul Salam over there? We don't know, but he does fit that offensive profile. And as what Gerard said on the show, we're trying to build positional profiles, and that appears to be what they're doing. So I'm actually going to go to Brad here and talk about our second pick in the second round, the 54th overall pick, Jonas Feldberg, a central midfielder from Dayton.
Yeah, it's an interesting pick there, kind of a local guy, and I think that was one of the themes we saw from a lot of MLS teams, especially late in the draft, where some teams weren't able to scout the guys for over this past season because it was pushed to this spring. So Jonas going local, it's a guy that they're projecting. He could be an attacker, but he could also be a defender. Some different boards had him playing different roles, but one thing the guy can do is hold on to the ball. While he might be a little bit of a project, for a team in FC Cincinnati who struggled to get numbers forward, so a lot of times we saw Joe Jao going against 3 guys. Jonas is actually an interesting piece that you've seen a lot of his videos. He's able to take 2, 3, 4 players on and then get the ball behind the defense into some of his fullbacks. International piece. So I still doubt that we're going to see him this season. I think it's more than likely he's going to go play in the spring at UD, which he said that. But then after that, maybe he'll practice some. Maybe he'll be one of those, US quote unquote USL loans. So we'll see. But definitely interesting piece. And you know what? It didn't cost FC Cincinnati too much to bring a local guy in.
And Laura Fowler, I do believe in a story on Sunday with the Dateland Daily News. I could be wrong. I do believe she confirmed that he'll be playing his spring season in the NCAA and then transitioning to loan or something.
Yeah, that makes sense for our listeners who don't know. MLS has said this season 2 of your draft picks can be off roster players, so they are free to go play for their teams, and then come May, June, that's when the MLS clubs can decide. So we don't have to have players choosing to play for for FC Cincinnati instead on the bench, or they can go finish their senior season. So I like that.
Okay. Now, finally, with the third pick with the second pick in the third round, 56th overall, FC Cincinnati drafted Matthew Winkelvai, I don't know, forward from Hofstra. Paul, give us a little bit of a scout on him.
Yeah, so the big thing that struck out with me is that he was first team All Colonial Athletic Association. So anytime that you can get a guy that's first team All Conference in the third round is a very good selection. And he also scored 13 goals in 2019, which feels like it's more goals than FC Cincinnati scored all of last season.
It is.
So
we only scored 12 last season. That's absolutely true.
Oh, is it? Oh, no.
Yes.
Did not mean for that to be a serious comment. But no. So when you have a pick in the third round and you see a guy that scored 13 goals and you can't score 13 goals in a season, it's a no-brainer in my opinion. Is he a complete offensive player? Of course not. He's in the third round of the MLS Super Draft. But with that goal-scoring potential, it's just something that you can't pass up.
Yeah, I think he's a big-body dude as well. 6'1", 180, rocking a pretty cool beard in his mugshot. A headshot on Hofstra. So
he's a domestic, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, me think about it. And he's kind of like takes up Rashawn Daly's spot.
Yeah,
think about it. So.
I was going to bring that up in a later segment. Yeah, I think that's kind of what you check that box there. So pretty optimistic, guys. We do have a listener question, if I can get to it here, from Brad Miller, and each of you guys can go through this. How many of our draft picks do you think will stick with the first team? Do you think any will get any meaningful minutes in 2021? I'll go to Brad first.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 2. I think it's going to be Flanagan. I think it's going to be Calvin Harris. Calvin Harris, he's going to be able to fight for the number 1 left wing spot, or I think it's left wing spot he's going toward day 1. Worst comes to worst, he should be in the 18 every week, able to prove himself. I just don't think that there's a ton of talent ahead of him that's going to keep him out of that spot. He's young, he's hungry, interested to see that one. And again, with Flanagan, I think FC Cincinnati has no choice. Right now, it's him and Matarrita as their left backs. I don't see us playing Zico Bailey over there. It's not his natural position. Maybe Saad Abdul Salam if in a pinch, but they're just not like players. So I think you would have to change your whole formation, your whole system if you go with some of those guys. So and that's not even taking into account that we have no idea who's our starting right back. So it could have been the 2 guys that I just mentioned. Hopefully not. But sorry for taking all the talking points.
I'm not counting on anything. I don't expect any meaningful contribution from any of these guys. And that's just keeping my expectations low because the MLS Super Draft, particularly this season, is pretty much a kind of a crapshoot. We're hoping for the best. Calvin Harris is a very high ceiling. We keep saying, I'm really excited. I want him to turn out. It isn't anything like that. It's just, he didn't play much last season. None of them really did. There's not a lot of college tape on these kids at the moment. If it works out, great, but I don't have any eye for meaningful contribution from any of these 4 in 2021.
Was that somebody's stomach?
I was saying, I think that was the ghost of Butchertown, I think. Paul, well, so first off, Clay, thank you, Stevie Sunshine, for that great segment there.
Someone's gotta add some realism here.
Jeez.
Someone's got to be pragmatic.
There's not many. It could be all 4. There's not many people ahead of him. You must live on Reddit or Discord right now, pal. A lot of positivity. Paul, how are we doing?
Yeah, I think, of course, Calvin Harris is going to hopefully get significant minutes. I hope that you draft a guy second overall with an international spot with the game plan that he's at least going to make meaningful contributions. Clay shrugging his shoulders over there. That's a fair point. You never know. But Flanagan could be one of those that might surprise people, but I'm not optimistic that he'll get significant playing time, even though he does fit the system. I feel like he needs a year or so probably to groom or maybe to learn and get better. But it'll be interesting moving forward to see. I'm still really interested in Vo Winkle. I think that could be a steal in the future. Obviously not someone that'll play much this season, but it'll be interesting to see how he develops.
All right, we have a comment. Fly89 picks 3. Vo Winkle, Flanagan, and Calvin with the team. Flanagan and Calvin with meaningful minutes. And I agree with Fly because I think if Flanagan is the backup left back, and knowing how many games Matarrita is going to miss via injury or international duty, he's going to have to play. And that's why I think in another segment, we'll talk about the roster here, actually segment 2, that there might be some more surprises in this roster build. So thanks, Fly, for that comment there. Guys, just a reminder, in about 15 minutes, we'll have Kevin Wallace of the Pride Cincy as well as the Post joining us to talk a little bit about updates from the Pride and what their plan is going into the 2021 MLS season. And something we do every week, and we truly appreciate all these people who support. Give a big shout out to all you. Tim Bronsel, Tom Rose, Matt Adamchick, Mike Hudson, Brian Malone, Jamie Smed, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery, Mike Bowman, Kathleen Francis, Matt Emholt, Matthew Long, Joe Coling, Tara Mullins, Riley Stephen Burke, and Melissa Bagel. Thank you so much to all you for your support. And to learn more about how you can support CST, please head over to cincinnati-soccertalk.com/support. All right, guys. It's still winter in a season I like to call silly season. And this year has been extra, extra silly. So with that, let's talk a little bit about the upcoming season, then we'll jump back. Today, MLS announced that we're going to have a season, hopefully, if them and the MLS Players Association agree on a CBA, which you never know what's going to happen there. But so far, as was previously reported by other outlets that, some people might be reporting beginning of February, it looks like indeed late February start. February 22nd is the tentative deadline for teams to be able to report in. Some CONCACAF Champions League teams might be able to go before then. But it looks like FC Cincinnati will be coming into the Queen City February 22nd with actually several players here training by themselves right now. Season's going to hopefully begin on April 3rd, 2021, which is roughly a month later than normal. Last year we played, I believe, March 7th in New York. So yeah, everything basically got pushed back a year, condensed a little bit. They're still going to try to play a full 34-game season, which would end November 19th with MLS Cup on December 11th. Some things that look like they're going to be agreed to is COVID-19 testing every day. But of course, there's a lot of things going on right now with COVID-19, hopefully for the better. Hopefully we will be able to get into the beautiful West End Stadium and see our favorite team and relearn kind of love, what we felt, or relearn how to love what we fell into with FC Cincinnati. So excited to see what's going to happen there. With all that in this roster build, there's been a lot of talk, guys, about several players coming into FC Cincinnati. Tim Parker was a name that was being bandied about last week. Of course, he's signing with Houston. We know Clay's love for Tim Parker.
I don't know why we aren't all on board with this. We could have had the Redhead Coalition at FC Cincinnati. That's what we needed. Yeah, here's my thing. Tim Parker's the kind of guy we should have gone after in this window. People were always saying DP number 10, decision maker, creative midfielder, and a starting center back, because we all kind of like, to some extent, Pedersen, Van der Vaart, and Hagelin. But would any of us think it could make an all-MLS team? No. And despite us wanting to draft for super draft prospects, we're not trying to rebuild. Nijkamp says we're going to compete after this summer window. So why aren't we going after someone like him? We are seeing these teams. Colorado did it. They sold their third pick for $200,000 in allocation money to Houston, which made back some of the money they spent to get Tim Parker. We had the pick above them. We couldn't maybe consider packaging that together, getting some money for that so we could afford someone like Tim Parker. Like, even if it's not Tim Parker, just the fact that we are seemingly committed to these prospects who maybe work out instead of collecting assets to buy ready-made competitors tomorrow, I don't understand it. Tim Parker would have been great for this team. He would have been our number one center back. He'd be top 10 in the league. Easy.
He was top 10 in the league probably a year or two ago. Brad, to Clay's point, though, about getting players versus assets, I guess you could say, there was a video put out by the club this past week, kind of a behind the scenes, and Hunter Freeman seemed to be discussing a trade in that video. It's not confirmed, but I know there was a lot of buzz about it.
What do you want me to say here? That I'm on that?
Throwing you under the bus.
No.
My point is, we are a building club. Would you rather have that 200 to go out and buy somebody, or do you want, that Calvin Harris, that young guy that we're going to have under roster control for the next 3 years?
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting video. I don't know what our director of scouting is in recruitment is doing, discussing trades for allocation money, etc. But where our GM's not doing it, but he's overseas. I get it. For us, I would have loved to have seen us go after Tim Parker. I mean, we have a stadium built for Tim Parker. The field at all times is partially under shade. He's, red hair and very, pale skin. He'd be perfect in that arena. But FC Cincinnati doesn't have $1 million extra in allocation money.
But it was spread out.
We still don't have enough for 600 this year.
That's why you sell the pick.
You don't have it. I mean, at some point you have to get players, and you know what? If you're going to have to go overseas, you're probably going to have to pay a transfer fee for a player that's worth a damn this time of year. You can get Calvin Harris free. So I think that's why they do it.
International.
Right, but you don't have to pay acquisition costs. The guy's not on the books. He doesn't occupy senior roster spot. FC Cincinnati only has a couple senior roster spots, and you just said big needs. Starting center back, probably starting right back, and a starting 10. There's all your senior spots. So I don't blame FC Cincinnati for going for that spot. Yes, I would have loved to have seen them go after Tim Parker. Michael Hood and I talked about it last week about how much we loved him as a player. I just, the situation that FC Cincinnati's put themselves in,
if we see significant minutes from 3 super draft prospects, we will finish last in the table again.
Daryl DK.
I call it right now.
Daryl DK. All right, let's move on to the next thing. And we're just going to put a bow tie on this because I'm so damn sick of it. Papu Gomez, I love you. Friend of you. Have fun in Sevilla.
Enjoy your Champions League football instead of joining the last team in MLS. Good job, Papu.
I'm going to mute you, Clay, because you are just a diaper dandy.
I haven't been on in 2 months. I have all these takes ready.
Oh my God, I tell you what. So if I was him, he was up in the slopes in northern Italy, and if he loves to ski apparently, and I don't think he'd be loving perfect north. So yeah. So bye, love you, Papu, have fun. Paul, I don't know if you saw this. I don't know. Perhaps maybe one of you guys can weigh in on this. Lukas Podolski, we went the rounds last week. We don't want him unless he's dirt cheap, and even then, it doesn't fit the profile of a player in 2021 Major League Soccer.
It fits the Sim de Young profile.
Is what it is. Is what it is. But did his
we tried to hit you from the top video screen.
Did his tweet this week referencing a guy, a Nashville fan, tweeting about Cologne and FC Cincinnati, and he liked it, and I mean, what the hell's your thoughts on that? Did that make you tense up a little bit? Like, oh crap, he might actually be searching for FC Cincinnati here.
Okay, I'll bite.
Yeah.
No, you want to go ahead. Go, Brad.
Yeah.
Hey, what the hell are we doing? What are we doing? Seriously.
Well, we don't know if we're doing, but
okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Scares
Okay.
me a little bit.
Okay. So if FC Cincinnati is going after Lukas Podolski, I don't care if he's cheap. He's not the player that FC Cincinnati needs to be going after right now. FC Cincinnati needs to be going after building block players in the midfield. I mean, he doesn't even fit really one of our big needs. We just drafted Calvin Harris, a winger, if Podolski goes on the wing. If Podolski is going up top, what the heck does that mean for Locadia? Where is he going? You know, I just don't see the point of bringing a guy who's going to be 36 this summer. Chances are we might not get him till this summer because he's number one. He's injured right now and he's under contract. We might not get him to this summer. I don't see him moving the needle on the field, and all he's going to do is take up spots that are going to be needed to be used by guys that we really need for the foundation of this club. We need to know who we're having and who we aren't having. I just don't understand why we're going after a player like Podolski. He doesn't fit the profile.
If we are going after him,
if we are. If we would sign Lukas Podolski, I would lose my mind. And it's not that I don't think he could do well, like for periods of time. It's not that I think he's just terrible, but he's just not the guy we need. It's stupid. It's like okay, we don't know who to go after, but we need somebody. Let's just go after an old guy that I know. Like, oh, FC Cincinnati fans, they might know Lukas Podolski. You know, there's a big Arsenal fan club in there. Blah, blah.
All right. I like the take. And to do a recap, kind of what Brad was saying, we have 3 senior roster spots left. Those are roster spots 1 through 20. You imagine that a DP 10 or left winger, whatever, you know, maybe an Alex Teixeira type mold, please. He would fit one. There's a rumor of I believe Travis Grimes reporting a center back from France. I saw on Twitter today that might be an option. And then, you know, 1 senior spot left, not including Franco. So it could be 1, could be 2. I like Brad's thoughts of bringing a right back there. We'll see. So yeah, I do think that this fullback group does need an upgrade. Maybe a winger as well. So outside of that, you have 1 supplemental spot left. 3 reserve spots. So among those 4, you have some senior minimum players, Flanagan, a draft pick. So maybe Vowinkle and Flanagan take up 2 of those reserve spots. So you still have a little flexibility, but not as many. I'm
looking to see what we can do with that last of the 4 main supplemental picks. Because we got the 2 GAs, we got Cody Cropper. We have room for at least 1 MLS, maybe free agent or a non-waiver player. I feel like that's where we need to see something there. Maybe that's a backup left back. Maybe that's a backup, wing or something there. I would love to see that. And that, if we would bring in a player like that, that would at least give me a little more hope we know how to use some of these roster mechanisms.
Oh my goodness. I'm so happy right now for this post that came into Twitter. Quit focusing on the negative. How about that gourmet chef, baby? I did bring that up to Brad today. We did have a big signing. Executive chef George Zappis.
I can't
cook.
I can't wait to
cut the meat out of a bag.
I have no idea. I thought the same thing.
I mean, I'm praying to God that was what the hell you call it, the sous vide. I pray to God that's what it had to have been, because I was like, he cut that. It was like Applebee's. Come on.
Yeah, I can't wait to go to the stadium to eat food without a mask on. That's such a smart, lovely thing to think about right now.
I'll throw Clay.
I tend to not eat food with a mask on, Clay.
Oh, geez. We'll be joined here momentarily by Kevin Wallace of the Pride. Guys, actually, I want to discuss this next topic with Kevin on the show, because he's one of the smartest guys in the FC Cincinnati fan base. Has some great takes. He was on KLR this past week. Normally does his MLS Minute segment. He did a full-length show with Jonah. I'm wearing a blue shirt, button-up blue shirt for you today, Jonah, and apparently so did Paul. So, very, very smart guy. And, we're going to talk about the evaluation and the panic involving Gerard Nijkamp, and we'll kind of end that here with Kevin. But I am pleased to see, hopefully his audio is working in the platform here. But welcome to the show, Kevin Wallace. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing all right, guys. Can you hear me?
It's
yes.
A little poppy, but so far so good.
Okay, good. I have to admit, if you listened to KLR, you know what I was up to tonight. I rented out a movie theater for the wife's birthday, and we are driving back from the theater. So camera wouldn't be good in a dark car as we're driving around, but hopefully you can hear me.
Doing God's work, Kevin.
Kevin, you're an amazing husband, and I love that idea. I actually was like peppering Kevin for all the details of that today because I thought that was such a cool idea to rent out a movie theater for my son's birthday here in about a month. So, Kevin, you're exec of the Pride. You've been involved in this process since day one with Payne. Give us a little bit about. Give us the announcement about your guys' pregame bar, and then we'll kind of discuss how you guys ended up there.
Yeah. So it's pretty exciting. Everybody loves FC Cincinnati pregame for the March, right? That's a big tradition. That's maybe one of the main things people know FC Cincinnati about around the country. So we knew as the Pride, as a supporters group, that getting our bar in the West and our pub partner where that March would be starting was going to be key for the organization, for the health of the organization. And we are very, very, very excited to announce and tell everybody and let everybody know that we will be going to Northern Row Brewery and Distillery for the Pride's pre-match home bar going forward. The ownership is extremely excited to have us on board. Both the owners that I've talked to are actually season ticket holders of FC Cincinnati. Even before we talk to them, the space is amazing, and I'm not sure how much people are aware of the history of the Pride's home bars, but it's been a rocky road up to this point where we found some good things in some bars, and we've learned what to avoid and with some pre-match bars. And I am so excited to say that we've actually been working with the owner for almost 3 years now on this decision, on this process. We vetted all sorts of bars, and it was a very fun time, of course, pre-pandemic, going to every bar within a 1 mile walking radius of the stadium site. And I think we found a good.
Yeah, you guys go through bars like FC Cincinnati goes through coaches.
Go even faster because we had a bar we never used last year.
You also run through. I had 6 questions for you, Kevin. You answered 4 of them already.
Oh,
Love
good.
Now, I do want to ask real quick too. For people who may not know the geography of over the Rhine and the West End really well, how does Northern Row and the March take you to the stadium? How's that path work out for y'all?
Yeah, so I don't want to claim a March route just yet, partially because it's not my place to announce the other supporters groups bars, and I know they're still hammering out a couple of details. So even if I told you something, it may not necessarily be correct come first match of the year. But generally speaking, Northern Row is about a half a block north from Rheingeist. It actually sits, if you look at a map of the streetcar, at the very top or the very north bit of the map where the streetcar sort of turns around, Northern Row is right on that streetcar route. In fact, the street in front of it is only open to the streetcar. So the March presumably, and again, depends on how things go, will kind of head south towards Washington Park and then over to the stadium, is how it's kind of drawn up. Now, I'm not saying that's how it's going. DI could tell us they're going to Arnold's next week, and that really changes things. So it's the general layout right now.
Awesome. Now, you were saying it took you guys 3 years. What was like that one thing that just made, Northern Row just stand out and say, "You know what? We love this place. This is ours."
Yeah.
We wanted to make this ours.
So there's a couple of things. I mean, like I said, the Pride had a different home bar every year because, frankly, it was a good thing. We outgrew each bar. So if people remember the first year, we were at Brass Tap, which I do not think could pass a fire code if somebody for the fire department had walked in there when it was at half capacity. That thing got overcrowded quickly. So we knew in the next year we needed somewhere bigger. So we found Ladder 19. Ladder 19 was great, but the service could have been better, and they could have done with more than one bathroom, right? Like that would have been nice. And so then we went to
That's what I was gonna
Top Cats.
say.
Top Cats had more bathrooms. Top Cats had lots of space. Top Cats had an ownership group that wasn't too keen on us being there. They wanted to be a concert venue. We wanted them to be a bar. It's a little bit of a tussle there. So when we found Northern Row, it checked all of those boxes. It was large. They had decent bathrooms. They had an outdoor patio and some nice outdoor space. They had an ownership group that was willing to work with us and was excited about the ideas that we presented them. And when I walked in there, they had an FC Cincinnati scarf hanging up, and they didn't know who I was when I walked in there. So, like, those things mattered. And then on top of that, the beer and their liquor, because they distill, they make their own liquors, is incredible. Like, it's really, really, really good product. And I mean, they've got an awesome menu, and the bar itself is sort of steeped in Cincinnati history. Like, the bar was originally a Christian Moorline ice house or lagering house. They have Cincinnati Gardens, the lights from the Cincinnati Gardens hanging up as the lighting. There's local farm wood as all of the tables and the things like that. They found an old bar back in Colorado, like the beautiful back of bar setup. They found it in Colorado, and it was actually made in Cincinnati. And they were able to bring it back and restore it to its full glory here in Cincinnati. And then on top of that, there is a rowing boat. Think of like a competitive rowing boat. That was the sister boat. It was the training boat of the boat that beat the Nazis in the 1934 Olympics. So, like, what was there to not like about this place? Are you kidding me?
Does Jungle Jim own this place?
You would think. And what's really nice is that, like, it's classy, but it's not like hoity-toity, but it's not a dive, but it almost has that vibe. It threads a needle that is very difficult to do for a bar.
This sounds like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Like,
Okay,
Well,
we had beers at every bar. I'm telling you, we were gonna find the Goldilocks bar.
There you go. I think that was the first time hoity-toity has ever been used in 240 shows of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. So I'm glad to have that checked off. Now, Cincinnati Soccer Talk was first off founded because we were just trying to get people information about FC Cincinnati. And this is things I love, with the pride, and, we'll talk to DI and everybody else. That's what we're here to do, is get everybody together and find ways for you guys to support the club that we love. Now, speaking with that, it's been a rough off season. What have you guys been doing in your preparations outside of the bar going into 2021? And, where can people find out ways to get involved for this upcoming year?
Yeah, great question. So we've been doing a lot of things. So a big part of what a supporters group does is active support in the stadium. And as you can imagine, pandemic kind of puts a big old rankle in that plan. So we've been working with the club top to bottom about what this year looks like and what all future years look like in the West End Stadium. So that includes, March logistics. It includes TIFO logistics and all sorts of fun new gizmos and gadgets that they're letting us play with to pull off some cool effects in the stadium, drum platforms and drums and where the drums will be and how the march will work in the stadium and up to the stadium and all these wonderful things that have worked well in Nippert and in Clifton, but in a lot of ways were products of Nippert and products of Clifton. Like we knew we could shut down the street because UC police had the ability to do that. How does that work in a busy residential neighborhood or with a streetcar? Things like that. So looking at the actual game day logistics has been a huge part of what the supporters groups have been doing. But then in other ways, 2020 was an interesting year for the Pride, and I'm sure for the other supporters groups as well, where it gave us a chance to sort of reflect, look at what we were wanting to accomplish, as an organization, maybe some of the weak spots that we had. I know the Pride, we've always felt that a lot of the decisions and a lot of the action tends to be very top heavy. Every year people elect their executive board. The executive board goes out and does a bunch of nice things, I hope, or maybe not. And then you vote them out, or you vote new people in the next year. And you just kind of hope something good comes out of the black box that is known as the executive board. We really wanted to bridge that gap with our members. So we're committing to having regular meetings with all of our members focused around different topics where everybody can come in and contribute ideas. They can find out what's going on. They can, find out where volunteers might be needed, this and that. And I think we've got some good momentum building from there. So that's what we're looking to do with the Pride. And then largely, I think this segues well into maybe the next topic, but I've always imagined that supporters groups are something like a union is in a workplace, whereas the supporters groups are sort of the union of the fan base. So we want the team to do well. We want the front office to succeed. We want the team to win. But, it doesn't always work that way. Some anti-fan things might happen. We might disagree with the direction of the club. Hey, you gotta let them know sometimes. You gotta slap them on the wrist and let them know.
Don't you touch them damn banners, Kevin.
Right.
I will come for you.
Exactly. So
not the banners.
I think that's part of it too, is that, if you want to hold the team accountable, a supporters group is an interesting way to do that, because I know a lot of people like to say, oh, Cincinnati sports. When has a Reds fan base protested? When have the Bengals fans protested? Never. They're complicit. They're okay with the mediocrity.
They don't go.
Are you born and raised in Cincinnati, man? I remember a lot of brown paper bags growing up in the Bengals Stadium, Riverfront Stadium.
They don't go sometimes.
Adorable. Brown paper bags are adorable. I'm talking unfurl a banner in front of Mike Brown's house telling him to sell the team. Like, come on. You went 10 years of terrible football, and everybody's like, oh, okay, we'll draft a new quarterback. That's good. Okay, I guess I'm back in. Get out of here. So what I'm saying is, if you want to hold the front office feet to the fire, join a supporters group. We'll yank the banners and we'll piss off the third string goalkeeper for you. All right?
I love it. All right.
You heard it here first from Kevin Wallace, burning out. Here you go. You heard it there first.
Sell the team, Lindner. Sell the team.
Speaking of accountability and measuring performance, there's been a lot of talk, and we'll the four of us will go into it after you address it here. But the question, there's been a lot of talk about panic. And, whether it's been rumors associated with Lukas Podolski or why we can't bring in guys or do players want to come here anymore. And a lot of that comes down to the job performance of our general manager. I think, he hasn't been given a ton of time yet, but there's some people already saying, if we don't win this year, he needs to be out. So as somebody who's really in touch with the fan base, I would like to hear your thoughts on how you think this offseason's going and, where do you think we need to be at the end of this whole process?
Yeah. So I look at it this way. I've written about this and tried to tell people about this. Like, FC Cincinnati historically, and particularly under Nightcamp, brings guys in a little bit later in the process. I think that has a lot to do with a lot of Nightcamp's contacts are in Europe, and they kind of have to see how the European window shakes out before they can pull out a couple of guys that weren't able to make moves that they thought they were able to make in Europe. So with that, I've been telling people, because Alton Oriole with the Athletic dropping the start date of preseason and the season hopefully. I first. All right, that's my line for you. That's the second week of preseason. I wouldn't panic until then.
Okay, so March 1st. All right, cool. Do you think if we don't bring in a 10, do you think you guys will be, showing your displeasure at, maybe the first match in West End Stadium?
So I'm not so keen on, we need this particular position, this particular player, or we riot. Yes, an attacking playmaker 10 that costs $20 million that ought to be playing in the Champions League would be great. And find me an MLS team that wouldn't take that, and then find me an EPL team that wouldn't take that, and a Bundesliga team that wouldn't take that, and a La Liga team that wouldn't take that. Come on, guys. Everybody wants that player. That player doesn't always exist. You're not always able to get them. So what I want to see are results on the field. You know what? If we roll into this season with this exact roster, I'd be disappointed. I think we could reinforce more. But if they win the first 5 games, you look kind of stupid being mad about it. So, you do have to wait for the results to come in before you think of the signings. I mean, how many people would have, given a standing ovation to Nijkamp for Locadia and Kubo and DeYoung and all these guys that look so good on paper. So I'm not ready to judge a signing necessarily until we get some results.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, I appreciate that. And, if you guys want to see more of Kevin's stuff, he has the MLS Minute on KLR. He's got the post, and he's got a lot of unique takes on social media as well. So, Kevin, where can they find you, at least on Twitter? Give us your handle.
Yeah, on Twitter, it would be Mr. Kevin Wallace. I was very happy to get that handle. And join a supporters group. I would recommend the Pride, but join any supporters group. It's a great way to get further entrenched in this fan base. And like I said, if you're ready to riot against the front office, that would be at least a constructive way to channel your energies. So that's my pitch to you.
All right, Kev. Well, man, I appreciate your time. Thank your lovely wife for giving 15 minutes of her birthday up to talk to the fans of FC Cincinnati. Enjoy your evening, and we appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Enjoy the show, guys. Have fun.
Thanks, bud. That was Kevin Wallace of the Pride supporters group. Guys, go check out thepridecincy.com for more information on the Pride. So, guys, Kevin had a lot of great comments, and that's something that I kind of want to come back and talk about now is the panic mode. There's a lot of people, we joke about on Twitter, T-minus how many days to panic. So, with all that being said, and I'll let Clay, start this. How are you feeling right now? In I don't want to ever tell anybody don't panic. But what do you think's I guess appropriate? Is that the correct way to phrase it?
Yeah. There is a looming storm cloud over this season, and it isn't Gerard Nijkamp's performance as GM. It is the CBA. The league is insisting there's a deadline at the end of this week. They're announcing a schedule when the MLSPA has only just submitted their first counter. The league owners are pushing hard for something. It feels fishy. It feels weird. I don't know why they're so insistent on this date right now. We had seasons where a CBA wasn't agreed upon until 2 days before a season was supposed to start. So whatever's happening in the league office, I don't necessarily trust the season's going to start April 3rd. And plus, not only that, the schedule could get really weird because I hope they have enough flexibility, because we can see in the NBA and the NHL and Major League Baseball last summer, COVID is not going to stop even when the vaccines start ramping up towards the summer. I mean, the season's going to be kind of a hot mess through the whole thing. So all that to say, I'm not panicking about having a signing right now because I don't know if we're going to start camp by February 22nd. So I'm happy to sort of wait. I don't like hearing some of the rumors about certain players we might be going after, but again, those are rumors, so who knows? But I'm not panicking if they don't sign someone right now because, again, it's all up in the air at this point.
Yeah, good take, Clay. I'll answer your question, Brian.
I did answer. I said I'm not panicking because the season's in flux. Maybe if you listen instead of just waiting in your corner to come up with your comeback, maybe you'd actually be able to engage with me.
Yikes!
He's so mad.
Yikes.
Oh, your face is cherry red though, Brad.
Oh, jeez.
All right, Brett. All right, Brett. Answer the question.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No. Okay, so am I in panic mode yet? No, but I'm damn close. I'm getting close, and I think almost everybody should be close because we've seen a general manager who's kind of over the last 18 months or so proven that he's not able to see or use the MLS roster mechanisms appropriately. We've seen it so far. It looks like not a lot of current MLS veterans want to come play for this club. We've heard from guys that are in the league, have played in the league, that know a lot of guys still in the league, that, you know what, FC Cincinnati is kind of a big question mark under this leadership right now within the current MLS, especially the domestic player base. So I think those are all worries. We're seeing it's extremely difficult for right now for teams to bring in other players abroad. And that's not just like, players outside of MLS to come to MLS. I mean, that's everywhere because general managers can't go scout freely. And, we're not even sure that the Canadian teams are going to be able to play in Canada this year, let alone is our general manager going to be able to go from the Netherlands to Germany to Italy to scout these players. So I'm worried. We've been waiting 6 years for a high quality attacking number 10 player. We've got to get one at some point in time versus just continually patchwork after patchwork after patchwork player. We need to start setting building blocks, and I'm not sure it's going to happen right now. So yeah, damn right, I'm almost in panic mode. My anxiety level is very high right now.
I'm going to put a comment here. This is from Jeff Tebbets, the newest, or I guess not newest CST member. That would be Justin Hoyt, but very new CST member, Jeff Tebbets. He was disagreeing with Clay, but I think this applies to Brad's comment too. We cannot assume any delays. And this goes to Brett. Every club has the same conundrum. Some have made some moves. With that being said, Jeff and everybody out here on CST land, international signings are a fraction of what they were at this point last year. If you're looking at November 13th through January 25th, 61 international signings last year. Today, 25. COVID, CBA, a variety of different things. I mean, you got guys like Mesut Ozil taking $3 million to go play at Fenerbahce when he was offered $10 million to come to DC United. You have Gomez going for, I think, $2 or $3 million at Sevilla, $8 million, $9 million here in Cincinnati. So, there's definitely something that's there that isn't kosher with Major League Soccer. Again, I don't know if that's our general manager. I think I really do have a lot of faith. Like, I don't want to have this conversation. I want to be like, yeah, dude, Netcamp, he's better than Garth Lagway. This is great. That's what I want to be like.
For me, though, I do agree with Brad, though, that to a sense, he is heavily reliant on his contacts in Europe. Most of our rebuild has been entirely built on the backs of people who are Dutch or have played in the Dutch league. And do we trust that he has an adequate grip on MLS processes? I mean, Matarrita, I think, is a pretty decent pick. Mines as well. What I'm actually more worried about is the players he's already brought in. Last season was tough for a lot of people, but if Kubo doesn't come good, if Barreal never shows up, I mean, we traded a decent American winger in Kekuta Mane to get Barreal, and if he doesn't double Mane's production, that looks like a waste. Is Amaya going to keep going? Is Matarrita going to be worth the price we pay? I mean, we haven't seen him play yet. Van der Vaart, is he going to be worth his price tag? Mm. If these players don't improve, and if Jaap Stam can't take them to be a competitive team, that's a lot of duds that Nijkamp is responsible for.
Stats would say that they would at least have to come up to their average, hopefully. So we'll see what they have to say there. And let's wrap up this topic. I have one question I'm going to give to Paul here, and then we're going to jump to our listener questions and final thoughts. Almost 10 o'clock. Paul, this is a listener question from Anonymous. Are we at or nearing a point where the lack of activity is an indication that good players don't want to come to FC Cincinnati?
It definitely could be. And I remember it was interesting, especially during our first season in MLS, where everyone's like, oh, this is terrible, we're bad. And we're like, oh, this, don't worry, we're finishing up at Nippert, and people want to start coming when we come over to the new stadium in the West End. And, that'll be attractive. We'll be a little bit better by then. And it turns out we weren't any better by then. Granted, COVID put a big wrench in a lot of those plans. So if this doesn't attract people or players to want to come over and play for FC Cincinnati, it's kind of that question of what will. And obviously there's a lot of questions that have to be figured out, especially with abroad and how that European window is beginning to shake out. But it definitely is concerning that if I'm a big name, why would I want to go to a team that's finished last place in the MLS the past 2 seasons in all this midst of uncertainty? It doesn't sound like a very appealing thing to me. You guys got a new stadium. Great. How does that help me get my value back and play better? It doesn't. So there's definitely a big question mark. And as a fan, I would definitely be concerned that we're not making these signings, because it might not be due to a lack of effort. It might just be due to a lack of interest.
Mm-hmm. Great answer, Paul. I think the other thing you can point to, I'm sure there's a couple other things. Jaap Stam. Is he a draw or is he not a draw? Or, a lot of things out there. I'm sure COVID, CBA, all these different things play a huge role. So I'm sure we'll touch on this topic quite a bit more. As we said, we have confidence in our general manager. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions out there. And, we appreciate him being open and honest, coming on our show several times to discuss that. So that's all we can ask for. We try to be fair. We try to put some options out there. And, we do want to root for you, pal. So good stuff there, guys. Another topic as we kind of wrap up the show this evening. Just a quick shout out, and we're going to be doing a story on this, hopefully having her on the show as well. Cincinnati native Malia Berkeley, local product out of Hamilton Baden High School, won the state title there. Then also went to Florida State, won the 2018 NCAA Women's College Cup down there at Florida State. She was supposed to be a top 3 to 5 pick in this year's NWSL draft. She actually opted out of that draft and signed a professional contract over at Bordeaux. So I just want to say congrats out there. That's a huge move, taking a huge risk. This is a exceptional top flight young player for U.S. soccer and taking that big leap. So we're actually going to be speaking with her, talking to her about her journey over there to France. And we're very excited to see, her career moving forward and, hopefully see her in the red, white, and blue here with Rose Lavelle someday. So go check that out. We're going to have that, I think, here hopefully in the next week or so. She's actually flying out to Bordeaux tomorrow. So safe travels and good luck, Malia. So, all right, guys. Have a couple listener questions before we wrap up the show here. And this is from Like a Ross 29. If MLS doesn't use the Pro Rel in their league, which they don't, each team should have a USL affiliate. I think MLS teams should use their youth league players as future players for the USL, and then eventually as USL players, they can work up to Major League Soccer. What system would you guys use to help build up the MLS team league? Brad?
Yeah, good question, like a Ross. I think you're going to see this continue to evolve. We saw a lot of teams flock to getting USL 2 clubs. I think some of them have kind of dropped back to maybe the USL League 1. And then you're also going to be seeing something called MLS Next coming up. So I'm interested to see that. I think I think teams in general should have more supplemental spots. We should be stockpiling college kids and putting them in professional environments and letting them play. I think if in a non-pro rel system, I think that's the way to do it. Get as many kids playing as many competitive matches as possible, getting them playing 90 minutes week in and week out. And then that'll help, weed out who will and who will not help, the professional clubs and ultimately the men's national team going forward.
For me, I think this is no longer going to be a league of Clint Dempsey and Jordan Morris, these kids who go through college, get drafted, like Tim Parker, like these guys in the past, Michael Lahoud. It's going to be the future is Brendan Aronson, it's Weston McKennie, it's Tyler Adams. A big thing that happened last season that I think is really hard to sort of get into the weeds to, it seems so big and complicated, is the U.S. Federation getting, stopping their youth academies and MLS teams deciding they're, creating more of their academies to develop their own talent. We had Larry Sunderland on a couple months ago to talk about it. I think that's it's very European in model. Get these kids young, early teens, mid-teens, develop them, put them through the paces, and hopefully one day, Philadelphia Union, they trade their super draft picks every year because they just signed 5, 16-year-olds to homegrown contracts. I think Philadelphia is seeing the future, and they were in on the academy system pretty early, so they can be. Unlike Nashville and Cincinnati, we have to draft these players. But I think that's going to be the future of this league when it comes to development.
Yeah, the people crapped on the development academy system that we had here in the United States. And maybe it was fair, maybe it wasn't fair, maybe this MLS Next is fair, isn't fair, whatever. There's a defined pathway, and the clubs are taking more ownership of that pathway. There's going to be winners and losers in that, sadly. But hopefully it leads to more guys, more young quality players playing meaningful minutes. Like this, I can't remember if it was this past week or this upcoming weekend. Columbus, Charlotte, and Cincinnati are traveling to West Virginia to do a tournament, and they're all going to play each other. And that's what we want. We want our guys to be playing each other. The top drawer ranked our U15s or 17s, whatever it was, as the number 3 team in the league. And that's great. We've mentioned on other shows, there are some very highly thought of players coming up through the FC Cincinnati Academy in a short time. It probably will take 10 years, though, before you get the Brendan Aaronsons, the Paxton Aaronsons, all these guys coming out of Philly, New York. And even in those instances, you're going to have dry spells. Look at Red Bulls right now. They may have one guy that they're bringing up this year. So there's a lot going on there. So I definitely think the pathway that we're on is probably the best. I don't know if we'll ever get to a USL affiliate. I'm not sure that that's in the cards. It was at one time. Not sure it is now. But whatever it takes to get those guys playing meaningful minutes, whether that's the U19 MLS Next team or maybe a USL League One. So we'll see. Last listener question here, and thank you for everybody who sent some stuff in. I think we covered several of these. Todd Graham, thank you very much. Alex Pelser, now that Papu isn't happening, and guys, I'll take this. Now that Papu isn't happening, have you guys heard any other players that the team is looking at adding? I think you'll hear from a lot of the local media. There's been talk from Gerard, from various sources, that there are some people coming. As I mentioned, Travis's earlier. People are going to be coming. We always try to get at least 2 sources for the most part on a lot of our reports. So you might not hear us on some of that stuff. There are things happening, but be patient, I guess, as we all could say. I think Kevin made a good point that I think it's a lot more likely to happen after the 1st of February than perhaps before, but you never know. He could surprise us and call a 3 p.m. press conference tomorrow. So we'll see that there. All right, guys, a great show. Me filling in Nick Superling's seat's always a daunting task, but we appreciate you guys being on here. So let's do our final thoughts. I'm going to kick it off with Clay, then we'll go to Paul, and then with Bradley. So Clay.
Yeah, one of my final thought real quick is about some of the comments we got while we were recording this live is sort of the negativity. And it is, I will admit, a bit hyperbolic and a bit performative, but I think it's important that the seats for Nijkamp and Stam and Birding, these people get a little hot this season. We're told certain things, like you said. Nijkamp came on the show. He was very honest. He was very forthcoming. Was as honest as he can be in someone in his position about what's going on at the club. And then it's our, Kevin talked about it with supporters groups. I think as media, it's, our opportunity to ask questions about whether they're going to follow through on that. And if we're going to be competitive, if we're drafting a lot of super draft picks and expect them to play, there's some discrepancies. I'm not too, like I said, I'm not too worried about the start date of when these guys start coming in, because of we still have some time before training camp is supposed to start. But I don't see it as a negative thing to press a little bit and say, your seat should be getting hot because of the things that you told us. Well, I guess I say us as, I guess, the royal us as fans. You tell certain people things, and it's important to follow through. So I would just say that is like in a nice SUV, the seats are just getting a little warm in the wintertime, and I think Nijkamp should feel it.
Can I jump in on this?
instead of doing.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
I mean, I agree, but like, I don't think his seat has to be hot. It's just I'm not seeing the stuff that I think needs to take place for his seat not to be hot.
I say that's why I think his sheet should be hot.
I am very, very worried about the roster construction of this club. I think that's it. One of the things people are saying you're being negative. I just think I'm being fair. That's what you will not see me hide behind a burner account. You will not see me delete tweets. Okay? I only delete tweets if they don't get a like. I will put my takes out there. It will have facts, and it'll have a basis behind it. Everything that I feel like I'm saying is darn right fair. Okay? So I am my ears are definitely perked up on the roster build of this club. I don't enjoy, writing negative stuff about this club. I feel like we've done that too much the damn 2.5 years, back-to-back wooden spoons. I mean, I'm not seeing the right things take place. And that's what has me worried. Gerard in the front office have talked a good game, but their actions have not backed it up. We've got a high profile. We've brought several, Ron Jans and Jaap Stam in the world of soccer are big names, but we're not seeing the right things put behind them or them executing the right stuff. Everything looks like so haphazard and scatterbrained, and so that's why I'm worried. So I don't enjoy making his seat quote unquote hot. I'm just calling it how I see it, and I'm putting my my name behind my words, and it's just right now it does not look like it's good enough.
Is that your final thought too?
Yeah, go ahead,
okay,
Paul.
Yeah, so I love how you guys were talking about the hot seat for night camp, because I do agree with that as well. And I think one way that he can actually kind of begin to take the hot seat off of himself is by putting some of his players that he signed to come here on the hot seat as well. And the way you can do that is bring in some competition for these players, make them feel a little bit on edge. In sports, when I played sports, watching sports, competition within your team, if managed right, can produce some really good results. So the signings that FC Cincinnati needs to make, they need to be targeted, but they also need to help bring some competition within the team to maybe get a little bit of a spark going. And that competition might make us competitive. And I'm not looking for a miracle this season, but I just want to watch some competitive soccer. I'm tired of turning the game off at halftime because I know we've lost.
I'm going to say this might be controversial. This is the most continuity we've had in between seasons in history of this club in 6 years. Okay, yes, we had Koch between year 2 to year 3 and year 3 to year 4, whatever. But he was always rebuilding those rosters. The 2018 Super Team, almost a whole new roster. 2019 Major League Soccer. Yeah. We have a lot of pieces together that were, the core of this club outside of Kendall Waston, Andrew Gutman, Sen Byung really wasn't a core piece last year. So, we have a lot coming back. A lot, Kubo is going to be more familiar. Locadia is more familiar. Pedersen, more familiar. VDW, all these guys more familiar. And then while we haven't done those earth-shattering moves yet, we still improved at left back. Moderate is a huge improvement. Yes. I don't care which. We're gonna ship goals on that side of the pitch. It's gonna happen. Be prepared for it. It's going to happen, but he's also going to make some amazing plays. But then you look at the rest of the roster, and we've improved. Ben Mines for Jimmy. Yes, all these aren't earth-shattering, but it's still getting the level up.
It's important that the narrative of the Koch birding initial roster build starts to die now, because this roster is Nykamp's. Kubo, Locadia, Barrial, Makocho, Harris. These guys have to show their worth, have to play better than sometimes they did last season, because if not, heads are going to start rolling, because Lindner said we're never going to see another season like this, and then they did. So
you want a frank analysis of FC Cincinnati right now? I'm not sure we have any player that would jump in and start in the Columbus Crew. We need to start figuring out how we can start picking off a player or two at each position amongst other MLS playoff teams, versus going out and trying to get a damn Papu. We don't need a Papu. Go out and get quality players. Go out and get Artur that's going to contribute. Go out and get some of these other guys. I mean, we are so far behind the ball, and then we're thinking one giant move is going to get us there. It's not.
Or for
he
draft
was talking about how we'd still maybe see a player or two leave this season. We haven't seen anything yet. I don't get it. I don't even know what the heck they're looking at.
Man, you took my damn nice, happy, cuddly final thought and
my headphones across the room. But
You
they
guys-
don't even know
you
what
guys,
the hell
I
they're
swear.
looking at.
I
I
swear,
didn't realize that I was
CS
setting off a
tiers.
fire in here.
CS tiers, you gotta hear the crap that goes. We have offices not across from each other, but like down the hall. And oh man, you should hear the stuff that we talk about on any given day. So, guys, I appreciate your time. You guys checking into CST again. This has been an amazing journey for us here, and we're not always right. Hopefully, not wrong too much. But we just try to bring up things to talk about, and we've had a lot of great views and followers and listens over the past month when there has been a bunch going on. And just let us know. We appreciate you, and thank you very much for taking your time to watch, listen, download. If you can, please share this. Please share our stuff, rate, review us if you can. I know we've been around for a while, but anything you do is much appreciated. And never know. Hopefully, when we get back out to one of these pre-match socials, that we'll crack out some Cincinnati Soccer Talk koozies. Maybe we'll get Big Bad Nick to buy us some koozies again. We used to, I think the first 3 seasons we did that as a ritual, and that's probably why we're losing. There you go. All right, guys. For Paul, thank you for joining us, Paul, from down in the dirty Louisville. I'm actually gonna be there tomorrow. Clay, love you, buddy. Thanks for joining me. I feel like you're my brother. Try to give you a little nuggie if I can do it on the video. Mess it perfect here. And then the evil twin Brad Weigel.
Now I'm pissed off.
Now he's pissed off. All right.
I set him off. I'm so
E
sorry.
Squad host. I'm joking. Love you guys. Signing off. Enjoy yourselves. Have a great week. Stay safe, and we will talk to you all next week.